Hello and welcome to Tech Deals. In 2017, I posted a video titled 64 terabytes of storage, 8-bay enclosure, covering the then deal of large amounts of direct attached storage for a reasonable price. That enclosure contained 8 8-terabyte Seagate archive hard drives, providing 64 terabytes of video storage for not a lot of money. Fast forward to 2020, and we replaced that storage solution with a Synology DS2419 plus 12-bay NAS filled with 16 terabyte Seagate Exos Enterprise hard drives. Sounds impressive. In a pair of 6-drive RAID 5 arrays providing 160 terabytes of usable storage with data redundancy built in. Here we are in 2022, and I've made the decision to retire the Synology NAS and go back to using a Mediasonic 8-bay enclosure, this time filled with 4 16 terabytes and 4 18 terabyte Seagate Exos drives set up in a RAID 1 mirrored array in Windows storage. Why in the world would I do this? Great question. That's what this video is all about. Today's video was brought to you by Ewin Racing, the best source for gaming chairs and desks for those long gaming sessions. We have a playlist of our Ewin chair and desk videos linked in the video description below. Save 30% off of everything using the discount code techdeals. More details at the end of the video. First, let me be 100% clear. The Synology NAS is the superior product in most of the ways that count, other than price. It is better built, it is more widely supported, it has its own built-in computer making it 100% independent of your PC, makes multi-user access easy, supports more and better RAID options than Windows does, and much, much more. It's that price aspect that causes it to be an issue here, and that's one of the deciding factors in the decision to retire it. I paid $1,500 for this in 2020. It's nice, but it's really only needed for a multi-user environment. And since we no longer have one, away it goes. Let's break the price down between these two options first, and then we'll talk about the pros and cons of each setup. The Synology DS2419 Plus has been retired. It was replaced by the DS2419 Plus 2 for a short time. However, that's been retired, and now the current version is the DS2422 Plus. Say those 3 times fast. A new version that has 1 out of 5-star rating on Amazon for a reason. Yes, this has to do with the price. We're getting there. Synology no longer supports any drives they don't sell. So if for some reason you have a DS2419 Plus here filled with 16 terabyte Seagate Exos drives, like I do, or did, and you have to replace it with a newer DS2422 Plus, well, tough. It's not going to work. You'll have to sell your current drives and buy new, overpriced Synology branded drives that are twice the price per terabyte as the Seagate drives. So don't replace it, you say? Sure. But if it fails for whatever reason, you could just pull out the 12 drives, drop another Synology unit, and carry on. Except now you can't. Thanks, but no thanks. That change alone is one of the deciding factors for me to leave Synology outright. The inability to use whichever drives you want. Because of this change, this can be sold for what I paid for it, getting me $1,500 back. In addition, I don't really need 160 terabytes of total storage. To be fair, I've been a data pack rat over the past few years. Saving every raw video file in its original format is just space wasting. 12 16 terabyte drives are worth $250 each, so that's another $3,000 gained from selling this. Now, to be sure, I need drives in the Mediasonic, but I already had those. But we'll get to their cost in just a minute. I also have the 10 gigabit networking card that is combined with dual M.2 slots into the Synology That was another $250, so we'll just round that to $200 for this one. And to support 10 gigabit networking, I needed a 10 gigabit switch in my network closet for $600, plus a pair of smaller 10 gigabit switches in each room, the one this was in and the one the video editing was in, for $150 each. That's $900 in extra networking gear on top of everything else. Finally, you need M.2 NVMe drives on the add-in card. Well, you don't need them, but if you've got them, why not use them for cash? Add $400 for a pair of reasonably priced 2 terabyte drives for cash for all of this storage, and that brings the grand total to have this installed in my office to $6,000. I don't know about you, but that strikes me as a lot of money for a single user environment. But wait, you say, you don't really need 10 gigabit, do you? Yes and no. These drives are able to do 300 megabytes per second transfer rate, or 3 times the transfer rate of 1 gigabit Ethernet. When you're moving around large files, being limited to 100 megabytes per second is definitely annoying at times. It also slows down video editing work if you're using files directly off the NAS. Let's talk about the Mediasonic now. These 8-bay enclosures are about $300. They attach via USB or eSATA, USB, so there are no other costs and easily transfer at the full speed of the drives. 4 16 terabyte drives are $1,000, and 4 18 terabyte drives are $1,200 for a total drive cost of $2,200. This brings the total investment to $2,500, less than half the cost of the Synology. Now, at this point, somebody is bound to say, wait a minute, this isn't a fair comparison. The Synology is providing 160 terabytes of storage, and the Mediasonic is providing only 64 terabytes. That's true, but in terms of cost, it's 2.4 times the cost for 2.5 times the storage, which is fine if you need 160 terabytes of storage. What I've found, as I noted before, is that I simply don't need that much. It allowed me to be sloppy with file sizes, to keep every raw file ever recorded and just not care about data. It doesn't take all that much cleanup to cut my data use in half. Now, this won't apply to everyone. However, sloppy habits do cost money, and if allowed to continue, would simply require even more storage soon enough, as the 160 terabytes was already more than half full. One more question many of you may have is, wait a minute, why in the world did you have all 16 terabyte drives in the Synology and you're putting 4 16s and 4 18s in the Mediasonic? That doesn't make any sense. Why not either put all 16s, which you clearly have, or why not put all 18s in? Why the mixture? Great question. Glad you asked. Microsoft Windows Storage Spaces is dumb, and unfortunately it's the only option that you can really use in Windows for a device like this. There's sort of kind of a way around it, but not really. The truth of the matter is Windows Storage Spaces only allows 63 terabyte drive partitions. It turns out that 4 16s of course fit very nicely within that, but 4 18s do not because they exceed 63 terabytes. And so using 2 16s and 2 18s gets you at 61.7 terabytes, just under the 63 terabyte limit. It's a weird quirk of Windows, and this limitation certainly won't be there for Linux, Mac, or, well, frankly, anything else that's sane. Let's talk about the pros to the Synology for just a minute. It is a small, self-contained storage device that plugs into your network and it just runs 24/7 without complaint. It has an easy-to-use operating system that you can remote into from anywhere in the world and manage as required and update as needed. It is quiet-ish and otherwise fairly fuss-free. Now, the drives themselves can be noisy if they're all in use, but that's true of any collection of 12 enterprise hard drives seeking away. The single biggest advantage of this is ease of use for deployment into a multi-user environment where you want to control what each person has access to, share files to the network without the hassles of peer-to-peer networking, and gain the benefits of better RAID support without building a dedicated Linux tower. That's really why we bought this. When we added our full-time video editor, XD, in our office in 2020, this went a long way towards making file access and management much easier. One of the biggest problems with peer-to-peer networking, besides the fact that Windows networking stack leaves a lot to be desired, is that if I'm sharing files from my PC to our video editor and I reboot my computer for whatever reason, it breaks its workflow, causes Adobe to complain quite harshly, and generally just sucks. If it weren't for the new requirement to use Synology branded drives that cost nearly twice what the Exos drives do, I would continue to recommend Synology to anyone who needs multi-user access in an office. Unless they reverse that change and promise never to do that again, I'd look elsewhere. Turning back to the Mediasonic, it is a simple tower box that holds 8 drives and provides a USB to SATA backplane, giving you direct attached storage. Windows sees all 8 drives and you can set them up however you like. This is where using Windows becomes a downside, because the RAID options in Windows are, to be blunt, terrible. You can't use any RAID setup from Storage Manager in Windows on USB drives at all. The only option is Windows Storage Spaces, which also leaves a lot to be desired. There is no actual RAID 5 support, despite the claims of parity support within storage spaces. What they actually do is use up 1/3 of your storage no matter how many drives are attached, and the performance is effectively useless. Yes, I've tried. It is truly terrible. The only practical options are spanned and mirrored. Spanned provides a JOBD, or just a bunch of disks array. It does not provide RAID 0 speeds, so performance is no better than a single drive. Mirrored uses 2 drives to store your data, cutting your usable storage in half, but allowing for the loss of a hard drive without losing your data. I mentioned this earlier. With 4 16s and 4 18s, I can use 4 drives to get 61.7 terabytes, or mirror them to all 8 for the same 61.7, but I can have a drive fail and not lose my data. Windows storage spaces actually can be configured in other ways, but only from the command prompt, and you lose the ability to make adjustments in the graphical user interface if you do so. It's really bad, and shame on Microsoft for not providing a better tool. As a side note, the Mediasonic does technically support eSATA, external serial ATA, allowing you to use another option. However, I have never gotten it to work, despite trying 3 different eSATA controller cards. The most I've ever managed to get detected are 4 of the 8 drives, and yes, I use Mediasonic's official card that they sell themselves. Before 50 of you run to the comment section and say, Linux fixes this, yes it does, and it breaks everything else in the process. Linux would allow for proper RAID support on the Mediasonic. The tools there are just so much better than what Microsoft provides in Windows. The problem with that is almost nothing else we use on the PC works on Linux. We use Adobe Creative Cloud for our content creation. We use Microsoft Office for our documents and spreadsheets. We use BackBlaze to back up our data. We use Snagit for screen captures and recording, and the list goes on and on and on. For sure, alternative software does exist on Linux, but it's just that, alternative software. That requires relearning workflows and changing tools. The cost can also be excessive because BackBlaze doesn't offer unlimited backup on Linux, and that stores a lot of data. It's that last point that provides for the single biggest benefit beyond price for moving back to the Mediasonic: the easy ability to back up all our data on BackBlaze for a very low price. For $7.41 per month, we get unlimited backup of all the data that we can directly attach to our PC, with 1 full year of version retention and easy restore options if required. There is no other reasonable option for backing up 60 terabytes of data. The fact that it's still supported 10 plus years later is crazy, and it's one of the reasons BackBlaze gets the techdeals Editor's Choice Award without any reservation whatsoever. I know we don't really do Editor's Choice Awards here, but if we did, this would be a 5 out of 5 star product. Side note, not sponsored, but affiliate link to BackBlaze down in the video description below. I have been a paying customer for over 10 years. We've talked about it many times in the past. Best online backup option available, real backup with real version retention. Sign up for free, 2-week free trial, no credit card required, truly unlimited data backup. I really do have 60 plus terabytes backed up. It's amazing. On with the video. The next question many of you might ask is, well then, how did you back up your Synology NAS? Great question, glad you asked. I had the Mediasonic installed on my home PC, I used Synology Sync to mirror the NAS to it remotely, and then I used BackBlaze to back up my home PC. The irony of this is it means the true cost of the Synology is not $6,000, but rather $6,000 plus the $2,500 of the Mediasonic, since it's the least expensive option for backing up that much data. It's worse, really, since I was capped to 136 terabytes of storage at home using a pair of spanned arrays. They weren't mirrored at the time, and there was 160 terabytes of available storage in the Synology, so at some point that was going to become an issue. Storing lots of data gets really expensive in a hurry, thus the move to clean up my pack rat habits. The truth is, I'm saving straight up $6,000 by retiring the Synology since I already owned the Mediasonic solution. I just moved it from home to the office and carried on with work. That's after converting it to mirrored, of course, and moving the data back over from the Synology once I got it here, but you understand my point. Moving on to my pack rat storage ways, there is a middle ground between deleting files and keeping everything, and that's transcoding. We record videos in various formats. Our main talking head videos, such as this one, are recorded on a Panasonic GH5 at 150 megabits per second at 4K 60 frames per second. The B-roll footage and overhead shots are recorded at 100 megabits per second at 4K 30 frames per second on a Panasonic G85. The live streams were recorded at 30 megabits per second at 4K 30 frames per second on a Panasonic G7. All of that is highly wasteful in terms of storage, but provides for high-quality source files for use in video editing. Once finished with them, they can be transcoded in Handbrake from H.264, the older format, to H.265, the high-efficiency video codec, using NVENC, NVIDIA's hardware encoder, at about 72 frames per second on an RTX 3090 down to 5 megabits per second, retaining most of the quality at a fraction of the file size. Here is a specific example. This is a folder of 7 video files that Muse recorded for her 4 Fun Things video in 2021. The total storage of the raw files was 89.1 gigabytes. The total storage after they were compressed was 5.15 gigabytes. 2 of the videos were talking head and recorded at 150 megabits per second. The rest were in the Blue Room, recorded at 100 megabits per second. These took about 2 hours to compress, and this is just one raw video. Now, as you might imagine, this sort of savings adds up after a while. For all the work put into this, it just seems wrong to just delete them somehow. The live streams are an interesting one to consider since there is no rendered version of those. The locally recorded live stream is the only copy we have. While 30 megabits per second isn't too bad, some of our live streams have been over 5 hours long, and it adds up. A 5-hour live stream at 30 megabits per second is 67.5 gigabytes. Compressing it down to 5 megabits per second reduces that to 11 gigabytes. Now, not small, not nearly as small as the raw footage, but with the number of live streams we've done in the past couple of years, it adds up. Finally, there are the game benchmark recordings. Every game I've ever tested in the past 4 years was recorded and saved. Most of those were recorded at 50 megabits per second. Some were 15 minutes long, some were 30 minutes long, and a few I got carried away on were an hour long. GTA 5, looking at you here. I have zero desire to ever delete those. They're useful. Sadly, game footage doesn't compress as well at 5 megabits, even in H.265, so I must make the choice of lower quality versus file size. Those will be compressed down to 10 megabits per second as a compromise to quality, since I'm much more likely to reuse footage from those in the future. All of that compression takes many days, even on an RTX 3090 using NVENC. However, it's easy enough to set a batch of 5 or 10 files to compress overnight when not at the office. Over the past few months, I've already saved more than 20 terabytes of storage so far, and I probably have another 20 terabytes left to save once everything is fully compressed. I will at some point need a second Mediasonic tower, of course, but that's probably a year or 2 away now that we're no longer live streaming and generating nearly as many long video files. Ewin Racing has a wide selection of chairs to fit all shapes and sizes of gamers, ranging from petite to cuddly. They have something for every type of gamer. Not just sizes, but colors and material options as well, including red, blue, purple, pink, orange, and more, plus cloth and leather choices. We have over half a dozen chair and desk videos in a playlist down in the video description below. We also have a very special offer just for Tech Deals viewers. Save 30% off of everything using discount code techdeals using our link in the video description. We have used Ewin gaming chairs for 3 years in our office, sitting on them for up to 8-hour marathon live streams. They are very comfortable, and we are happy to work with Ewin to bring you this special discount and recommend Ewin for all of your gaming chair and desk needs. Thank you all so much for watching to the very end of this video. 2 gold stars for all of you still here. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you love it. Remember to subscribe to the channel with the big huge red button directly below. Questions, comments, thoughts, feedback, suggestions, you know where the comment section is. Links in the video description. Link to the video on the Mediasonic. Link to the video on the Synology. Links to Amazon, Newegg, and eBay for a variety of things, including these. A link to our Patreon page down below. We are going to emphasize our Patreon page more going forward, including publishing filming scripts early. The script for this video went up nearly a week before the video went live. The filming script for the Threadripper video, which came before this, also was up before the video went live. And we're going to start offering early access and some other benefits over there as well. So please check out our Patreon page using the link down in the description below if you would like to support us for the cost of a cup of coffee each month. Thanks so much for watching. I will see all of you next time. That enclosure contained 8 8-terabyte Seagate archive hard drives, providing 64 gigabytes. The script says gigabytes. You know, if people don't like our sponsor spots, we could find new ones. Today, this video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends, and Ridge Wallet, and NordVPN. Pretty soon we'll be saying, FreshBooks. Let's break the price down between these 2 options first, and then we'll talk about the pros and cons of each setup. The Synology DS294020. These drives are able to do 300 gigabytes per second, or 3 times the transfer rate of 1 gigabit. When you're moving large files around, being limited to 100 megabytes per second is definitely annoying at times. It also slows down video work if you're using files off of the NAS. Did I say 300 gigabytes per second?
Yeah.
That's what's in the script. The Synology is providing 160 terabytes of storage, and the Synology... You know, as a side note, I know I said that my main issue with Synology is the whole we don't have a multi-user environment, and in multi-user environments it's great. But the truth of the matter is, if it weren't for the stupid Synology drive requirements and some of the policies that Synology has had, I would almost be tempted just to keep this because, I mean, it is reliable as dirt. It just sits there and runs and it never complains. And while it's more expensive, it's really easy to use. It absolutely, it just works. But their policies? No, just no. There's a reason why nobody uses eSATA anymore. It never worked. You know, it works with one drive, but the idea was it'd be a plane splitter and you could plug 8 drives into eSATA and somehow add, and it just, the compatibility and support was garbage. Sadly, game footage doesn't compress as well at 5 megabits per 5 meg. Valve! So close! Part 48, take 4, first try.